Welcome, friends, to Pastor Paul's Illustrated Bible Study. I'm coming to you from my home office slash art studio and music studio, and of late, my film studio. I just put up a green screen the other day, and so hopefully in the near future, I'll have some very interesting backgrounds along with what I'm going to be talking about. When I was a teenager, I enjoyed drawing with pen and ink. And as life got more and more busy, I put my artwork on the back shelf and I left it there for many, many years. About 10 years or so ago, my interest in being creative through art returned. I dusted off my pens and tried a new pen and ink technique called stippling. And it consists of creating an image from thousands of tiny little dots. And I'm going to show you a few examples of that in a moment, and then work on my latest effort while I share with you a few thoughts from the Bible. I've entitled this talk, Little Things. So here we go. Some of you may remember that years ago a man named Richard Carlson wrote a book called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's all small stuff. Richard Carlson was a psychologist and a therapist who had a very clear and very simple idea, which was the key to happiness is perspective. One of the rules of life that many folks remember from Carlson's book is this little standard of measure. When you find yourself really worrying about something, really fretting about certain things, when you find yourself arguing with your colleagues or your spouse, ask yourself this question: will this matter a year from now? The author also states, often we allow ourselves to get all worked up about things that, upon closer examination, aren't really that big a deal. The book provides helpful hints on keeping our emotions, especially anger and dissatisfaction, in a proper perspective. Now, I'm sure the book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's all small stuff, is very helpful on many levels. But I would like you to consider, from a biblical perspective, Jesus' words from Luke chapter 16, verse 10. If you are faithful in little things, you will be faithful in large ones. But if you are dishonest in little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities. Jesus teaches nearly the complete opposite of Carlson's message. He says that the small stuff is exactly what we should be concerned about. This isn't because Jesus wants us to walk around life obsessing over every little thing, worrying about every minute detail in our life. No, Jesus spoke a lot about not worrying about unnecessary things. So what is Jesus getting at? It turns out that the big stuff of life really is made up of a lot of small things. When we meet the big stuff, the major decisions, the critical choices, we will be in over our heads unless we've actually had the experience of making well-shaped choices on matters of lower stakes. We'll do a lot better if we had to figure out on a smaller scale how to overcome the things about us that tend to point us in the wrong direction. Our impulses, our self-justification, our preference of immediate satisfaction over a more worthy goal in the future. Now, we know this in the way we raise our children. We try to construct scenarios for our kids in which we try to gradually increase the degree of responsibility we give them. It could be an allowance, or it can be a job, or anything else. These small beginnings, small responsibilities, are great training grounds for bigger things in the future. Those seemingly unimportant things that we learn growing up are the basic building material we use to craft our moral compass. The one who is faithful in little things will be faithful in bigger things. Little things become big things, and big things quickly can overcome our capacity to manage. So Jesus turns out to be right. Little things mean a lot. When we attend to the things that may seem trivial or unimportant or unnoticed or overlooked by other people, when we do things that we think no one else may even notice, we are being faithful in exactly the way we're called to be faithful. And we are preparing ourselves little bit by little bit for the greater work that lies ahead. Many modern day Christians feel that God does not really care about little things. They take a very human perspective of God to justify their philosophy. Since humans tend to care only about the big things and not about the little things, surely God must follow suit. They say to themselves, for example, as long as we're not out there committing the big sins, we're okay. The importance of the little things is seen throughout the Bible. From as early as Genesis chapter 3, we see a seemingly insignificant act of eating fruit from a tree result in grave consequences. Though God had just warned Adam and Eve of the penalty of eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the serpent tempted them on an idea that this little thing, it's just a piece of fruit. What harm could there ever be in eating that? The result, the fall of human beings and the beginning of all the miseries and hardships that continue to this day. The story of the Bible is that of a God coming to the rescue in Jesus Christ, who would eventually die on a cross to save us from the bad choices we make, both big and small. At the same time, to empower us through his gracious Holy Spirit to look at each day as an opportunity to serve and obey God. The seemingly everyday, ordinary, small things in life can make or break a life. God is very interested in the details of our lives. The Christian author Oswald Chambers wrote, "We can see God in exceptional things, large things, but it requires the growth of spiritual discipline to see God in every small detail. The way we talk to each other in daily life, what we think, how we act or react, and 1,000 other tiny things are all opportunities to honor God. And as we obey Jesus in the small things of life, the picture of our lives becomes more and more beautiful." And so, Jesus taught that we need to take seriously every opportunity. He said, "Unless you are faithful in small matters, you won't be faithful in large ones." It is my prayer that you see each day as a glorious opportunity to follow Jesus, especially in the small stuff. Amen.